Well, I hope we're live. It'll probably pop up in there in a second. Jimmy Vinyl, people who have been watching for a long time, fist bump me. They're going to remember our previous segment, On the Record with James. You've told us your story in the past, but we've got a lot of new viewers. Why don't you tell us about how you became homeless after 9/11 and all of that, and then we'll take a walk over this way. We're going to investigate this story that the Post has put out, alleging that there is a morgue being built over at Bellevue. Welcome back to the show, Jimmy Vinyl.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me back.
So tell us what happened. September 11th, you're living downtown.
Yeah, I had a loft on Chambers Street, directly in front of the Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And, the planes flew over the loft. We heard the grinding, the grotesque grinding sound, and then the echo-chambered explosion into the building. Everybody in the window within seconds, looking around, wondering what's going on. The world changed. From my point, I was there as part of the community to help in any way that we could. But ultimately I was exposed. My house ended up being filled with World Trade Center. I had 4 feet of World Trade Center in the loft.
Soot, dust,
yeah,
rubble.
It was like a blizzard this high.
And your health?
Yeah, well, over time my health was significantly affected. I've always been, health conscious and a Qigong practitioner, working on esoteric and frequency and certain aspects of the deeper, not health from the physical point. Physical performance is a very, secondary aspect to living.
It follows your mental performance, right?
It follows your spirit. The spirit is, the invocation of intelligence comes from 3 parts. It comes from your belly. Go with your gut, your intuition. Mm-hmm. The power, the fulcrum is here as it relates to the heart, and then the mechanical brain. So the 3 of them together twine to create what we call intelligence.
But what about the gut and its impact on your immune system? I think a lot of people are concerned about not getting sick right now, and you and I, we see each other almost every day outside Whole Foods. You're basically the mayor of 23rd Street. People have seen you on the show. You're selling records and everything, and obviously with nobody out on the streets. I mean, Jimmy, look at this. Have you ever seen anything like this? There's nobody around.
Hydrogen.
What do you mean?
Hydrogen bomb.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's an event like that.
Yes.
How do you think the past week or two stacks up to 9/11?
The problem with all these events is that we catch on to what's really going on much later after the event has occurred.
Right.
With 911, it was years later before things are exposed. For my case, with 911, I ended up on the street. I ended up with nothing. The issue was that because I did not want to take Western protocols as part of any procedural healing.
Medical stuff, you mean?
Correct. I mean, it would have killed me. Basically, the system was so overloaded with poison that any synthetics in the system, and this is a point I'd like to make to people in the field right now, is that if you are not feeling well, synthetic drugs are not going to help you. They're going to hasten your demise.
This is, of course, your opinion. We can't give anybody medical advice. You're not an MD.
I'm not an MD. I'm not giving medical advice. What I'm saying is that, like for example, what we're hearing is that like Advil, for example, as a pain reliever may, in fact, amplify
and stuff.
Yeah, it may amplify, but again, I'm not a doctor. People have to make their own choices. I mean, there are many, natural ways of dealing with pain and dealing with, the autoimmune system in terms of, making it stronger. All I'm saying is people keep your center, keep your love center, try to stay out of the anxiety zone, and care for each other. That's really what it comes down to at this point.
So I usually see you either in the supermarket or out, you're selling your records, you're chatting. Everybody in the neighborhood knows you. You're super well liked. Everybody misses your sidekick, the dog.
Oh, Theodore, Teddy, yes.
Teddy. People miss them. And you have a rapport with dogs. People come up to you, the animals love you, you've got this connection. You're a very unlikely New Yorker in that regard, because you're kind of, people I think have this image of New Yorkers being loud and obnoxious city dwellers who have no spiritual connection and stuff like that. What do you think of that?
I think the city has changed. I think it is generally speaking, it's a more alienating place than it used to be.
Yeah.
Before we had neighborhoods, before we had a very diverse population of people, creative people, working regular 9-to-5 jobs. They might have been a theater manager, they may have been running a bar. I mean, not that people still don't do these things, but in New York proper, the real estate being at such a premium, it's very difficult for the average person to live here. So and people do come in from other boroughs to work here, but...
So we got a problem here.
Hey, buddy.
This guy is gonna...
I don't have it, but sorry.
All right, so today we got something to intimidate these guys with. He's gonna get whacked in the head with this if he comes near me. There's a lot of dangerous people out, James. I don't know if you've noticed that. Seriously, what have you observed on the streets over the past few days?
Not many people, that's for sure. And the people that are in compromised positions are more noticeable, and my heart goes out to them. I mean, I've been on the street myself, and there are a lot of reasons why a person's not well. Sometimes there is an imbalance that creates their behavior. Other times, there could be any number of reasons why it happens. It's just people have to be careful, try to be considerate of the other person's position and protect themselves. And if they can help them, do so. I honestly didn't have the money to give them, so I gave it all away.
I'm a little concerned about just interfacing with any, strangers who are obviously desperate on the street, because I think we're getting very close to a point where people who were desperate when there were millions of people around here handing out probably $50 to $100 in cash per day, so that someone who is down on their luck can at least subsist, get food, maybe someplace to have a room every few days. None of that is happening now, and what I've been observing is a huge concentration of extremely desperate people who are becoming increasingly desperate. Like before this quote-unquote pandemic occurred, would you say that that was a common occurrence for a homeless person to accost you from across the street and come right towards us?
No, and I think part of the problem is that lots of people's lifeline is being cut off here.
Right.
I mean, I'm not making any money at all. There's no money to be made. There's no one on the street. There's no one buying records. No one's buying anything.
And they're worried about their own jobs, a lot of people. You were talking about bartenders. I mean, so I see a lot of people approach you and know you even just walking by. What are people saying to you, or have you even been out?
I don't go out a lot right now. I mean, I go out to get food, and I could take a bike ride here and there, but there aren't a lot of people out.
Yeah.
A lot of people are keeping to themselves. There aren't as many of the old crew around, visibly around.
Right.
And to be honest with you, the newer crowd are they're not community orientated.
You mean before the pandemic started, just the neighborhood? You and I have spoken about that in the past.
The gentrification of New York has made it very sterile. People aren't, walking up and talking to each other and meeting each other. A lot of the suburbanites with money that come here are very, very insular, between personality, non-social skills, and, the overemphasis on technology. So all these things are changing the game, and in light of what's happening now, it just pushes it to the next level. So, the issue moving forward is what are we left, what is the residue we're left with from this, event? Are we going to continue behaviorally being more distant from each other, or are we going to come together in some way? Because really that's the issue. It's like, granted we have to stay away from each other, but how do we, on a human level, maintain connection to each other in some way? It's a very important, it's a trying issue, but it's a very important issue.
Yeah.
Because moving forward, if we're further away from each other, the mechanisms in place are just going to, continue the onslaught.
Do you feel at risk of getting sick from coronavirus?
I don't even think about it. I mean, to be honest with you, I've spent, over 12 years practically, on the line, practically dead. So my feeling is nothing can hurt me at this point. If it's my time, it's my time. But I've had such struggles, and within the struggles, we find more about ourselves, and we if we accept these things in certain ways and deal with them, we can, turn it around, So look, I mean, there are people just freaking out, wigging out. They should respect the fact that maybe the virus, that the virus exists, and maybe they may come in contact with it, but we need to take care of ourselves, keep the immune system strong, eat well, have love in your life,
right.
Stay in a positive zone.
Right. Stress really hurts people's immune systems,
absolutely.
Right? And all the processed foods that most people eat.
A lot of the synthetics are, kind of corrupting, the fundamental operational value of a human being. So again, I'm not a Western practitioner, and I'm not pontificating from that point. I'm talking about, the continuum of human life from the beginning of time and the traditions that have existed earlier, and how, we as,
So this is the Baruch Student Healthcare Center. Do you find it strange that there are no students lined up here trying to get tests or see a nurse or a doctor from the university or anything like that?
And if they're closed because they're quarantining, it's, again, that's the issue. It's like, what's going to be open to do something relative to having people? I don't know. To be honest with you, I have not been, keeping up with the mainstream news.
Right.
In terms of what's happening, so I'm out of step to comment on anything, because I don't really even know what anything is.
Well, you've been talking a lot about, pharmaceuticals. A lot of people are medicated. People want to eat fake food and abuse their health and then take some pill.
Right.
There's a lot of speculation that this, the coronavirus coming out of Wuhan, China, might have been a genetically engineered organism that perhaps came from vaccine research or was specifically intended to be a biological weapon. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, laboratories do exist, and they are, creating things in laboratories. So, was I there to see this engineered? No. Can I say it was? No. But, again, we all have to, wonder in the times that we're living in why these things are happening.
Right.
It's like back in 1910 when New York was, overpopulated, and you had new industry here, and immigrants coming in from all over the world, and you had smallpox and you had dysentery and all these things. It made sense that there might be a plague. At this point in time, I don't understand why we have them, but.
Well, right. I mean, it seems really weird. And have you noticed a lack of NYPD around?
I haven't seen any. I haven't really seen anybody. I haven't seen many people around at all. In fact, there's 3 cars. There's a couple of cars coming up the street.
It's really crazy, right?
Yeah. No, it's a very. I'm hoping it. For souls who are connected, they're going to allow their humanity to transcend this. But for those that are in a fragile state, this could potentially
put them over the edge.
Yeah, and be more dehumanizing to them. They're more in their, in their, anxiety zone, in their, protective, kind of alienated frame of mind. It's like, I see young kids, they see other people and they run away. It's like they got masks on, and
Right.
It's like, I haven't seen any young people go up to an older person and say, "Are you okay? Are you well situated? Do you have food?" You see a person maybe struggling walking down the street who might be, in a compromised position during what is purportedly a pandemic.
Right.
And are you okay? You know, we're your neighbors. We live down the street. Do you need help? You know.
Yeah.
That's the one thing about 911. You know, the day of that event,
Everybody came together.
everyone came together for about a year.
Right.
You know, eventually it was business as usual again. I mean,
Yeah.
we had about 3 years of chronic anxiety.
Right.
You know, the trains. You know, just the tenor on the street was very nervous. You know, for up to about 2004, I would say.
And it stays with you to some extent. I mean, that changed the world. Do you think this pandemic is going to have a similar impact on everybody's lives going forward, even if we're able to restart the economy as soon as April?
Well, that's the issue. You know, again, you know, it's like I advise people, you know, as somebody who teaches esoteric arts, to keep your center, keep the breath in the lower extremities, not in the flight, fright, not here. Bring it down. You know, move around, shake, stretch, smile, feel. Try not to, you know, artificially medicate if it's not necessary. I mean, people deem things differently based on their reality.
Right.
And you have to kind of respect it. You can't tell people what to do. But you know, that said, it's like if you want to be alive, you got to enliven. you gotta move it along, you know. And
Yeah.
so I'm very grateful to be alive. You know, and again, you know, I got a call today from the World Trade Center for a follow-up at 19 years later for certification. You know, and I started laughing. It's like,
What do you
know,
mean certification? To compensate you for your loss, for your home?
Well, the certification would potentially bring me to that, but the vetting process to certification is extremely stringent, extremely political. It's like they have a short list of illnesses. It's like, but an event could affect anybody in any sort of way.
Right.
If you're incapacitated and I'm not on the short list of what you deem to be a cancer, but I've had tumors all over my body and jaundice, and my endocrine immune system was slammed, and I was practically dead with lesions all over my body.
Jesus.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you saw me on the street. I had holes in my pants.
Yeah.
I was a partner in an internet startup company, and I was number 3 in the company. Okay, my number 4, who lives above Whole Foods, was walking by. He saw me with holes in my pants, completely disheveled. He took a look at me and he started crying. He says, "Jim, what's going on?" I said, "Bud, it's okay. I'm okay." He says, "Something doesn't feel right." I said, "Well, I'm just here." He says, "What does that mean?" I said, "Well, I'm here. This is it."
This is going to happen to a lot of people now as a result of this event, isn't it?
You know, yeah, possibly. I mean, the issue again is that, you know, our society has weighed itself so heavily on money, you know, and people have become so dependent upon it. The anxiety now is palpable because really everything is about, you know, performance from Wall Street. You know, everything stops from that, you know, starts and stops from that point.
Right.
And, you know, unfortunately, the humane factor has been, you know, is becoming very limited. I'm trying to be very gentle about this without having any, you know, overt rancor about it.
Right. But in a nutshell, when you hear the president or Congress say that everybody's going to get, you know, $1,000 or $1,200 to compensate for this shutdown, I presume you don't have very much confidence in that.
I mean, even if that, if it happens, it happens. You know, I mean, I'm not, you know, I really don't pay attention to what's going on with these people. Mm-hmm. You know, the fact is that, you know, the world has had to deal with, you know, these sorts of leadership qualities for a long time. And, you know, with varying results and with varying, you know, concentrations of, you know, certain qualities, you know.
Yeah. So let me bring your attention to this. I don't know if you read the New York Post, but they had an article this morning which was talking about a makeshift morgue for coronavirus victims being set up outside a New York City hospital. They're talking about Bellevue. This article was written in part by a guy named Larry Salona, who also wrote a lot about Jeffrey Epstein, and I personally don't trust Larry Salona. I don't know what you know about Bellevue Hospital, Jimmy, but I don't know too much about it. I saw this article here saying that it's New York's best-known public hospital, and that you can see prisoners in handcuffs and drug addicts and all kinds of things in there. Do you know anything about Bellevue Hospital?
You know, I don't know a lot about Bellevue. I've only been in Bellevue once. My dear friend was hit by a truck and she ended up in Bellevue.
Jeez.
And you know, the treatments and protocols, you know, in terms of how they dealt with her, you know, I mean, they had no acupuncture. She needed acupuncture. She was going into pneumonia.
Whoa.
I mean, whatever. The point is that, you know, it's another bureaucracy. It's, you know, there's one way of doing business.
Here it is.
You know, look, I've never been in a hospital myself in my life.
Uh-huh.
And it's not that if I can avoid it, I will.
Of
because,
course.
You know, because basically, you know, there's just lots of germs. There's lots of things that, you know, can conspire to actually harm one's health even worse. You know, some of the things that they've got, you know,
then when
that
you
they're
go
dealing
in.
with when they've gotten in there. So,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Now wait a minute. It's one block further. It's behind. I think this glass part is a new part of it. So that's First Avenue. That's
you
the
can go right
hospital
in there.
behind there.
You can go right there.
I don't think we want to go inside. Let's go around this side and see if we can see where this makeshift. I see the tent. I see the white tent right over the fence here. So we'll cross the street. What do you think about the? Why would they be setting up white tents? I mean, the New York Post presumes that it's a morgue, but I don't know that that's been confirmed by the officials.
I don't have a clue. I haven't been following the mainstream news at all.
So the thing that I'm here to figure out, Jimmy, is we've been hearing from the mainstream news that New York City right now is ground zero for coronavirus in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And Cuomo has been telling us that as of days ago, 1 person per hour was dying. I've seen stories telling us that as many as, one infected person can infect as many as 50 individuals. So I don't understand, if we have this incredible explosion of people who are sick and dying, how come we're not, seeing that? Let's take a look through the fence here. I do see a white tent. It looks a little bit more like they're setting up for a wedding than a morgue. I mean, am I wrong? Let's see if we can, I don't know if I can get in there. Can people
It's
see
kind of
that?
festive, doesn't it?
It just looks like a tent that people would be inside. Let's see what else we can find here. I mean, they were trying to make people think that they were like shoveling dead people into a tent. But as I go around the city, I haven't seen ambulances racing around. I haven't seen, hospitals jammed out with people. Do you work at the hospital? No, he doesn't want to talk. That's cool. I've seen ambulances parked. Yesterday, the fire department told me that several of their ambulances were parked on the street because they were broken, and we're told that they're setting up makeshift hospitals rather than fixing ambulances. So it's hard to see through this I don't know what this is, this net, but there's a white tent in there. It's pretty open. It doesn't look like it would be sealed from germs or anything like that. And then, here's the front entrance of the hospital. Does it look to you like a medical emergency is happening here right now? Like on the scale of shutting down the nation? Okay, here's an ambulance. Driving past the hospital. So that's interesting. That doesn't look like a tent that's been set up by FEMA. That just looks like a tent that's there. I don't see a lot of activity here. If you get cold or have to leave or anything, feel free to just give me the high sign. But so this is the part of the show where I'm kind of investigating if there is a pandemic. Now, there haven't been a lot of instructions for people. If people...
Please break the $100 bill. CVS is not accepting 50s or 100s.
What's the problem?
Nobody is accepting large bills because of the economy. Please, I'm just trying to get my medication.
Sorry, man. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but this is the entrance to Bellevue.
Yeah, I don't want to go in there though.
No, we're not going to go in. We're not allowed to go in. We're going to go around the back. I'm just curious that there seems to be almost nobody here. Cross the street. Okay. All right. I'm crossing the street. The cops have been very adamant that I don't have cameras anywhere near the hospital. Now, Jimmy, that thing there says emergency. You see it?
What's that?
That sign there says emergency, and that's where I would expect ambulances to be flowing in with tons of sick people, but we're not seeing that. You okay? You all right?
Yeah.
So,
But I ain't walking uptown. You walking way uptown, or?
no. We're just going to take a look over here. Okay. See, we got NYU Langone right up there. We've got this emergency area right here. It doesn't look like a lot of emergencies going on over there.
No.
I don't see where this tent is. This is Bellevue Hospital. Is there another Bellevue Hospital downtown further towards the East Village? Watch out for the bus.
No. I mean, there's one down on off of Chambers Street.
Nah, that's not it. I thought it was this one.
Well, there's a Langone Center near Wall Street.
Well, Langone they got everywhere, but the Post story was talking specifically about Bellevue, and I thought this was Bellevue, but I don't see the tents they're talking about. I wonder if there's a different Bellevue. Is there anybody on this bus? Oh yeah, we got a couple people on this bus. That's the first time I've actually seen a bus with anybody on it in days. So you're not really following the news at all. I don't know, what do you think's going to happen next, Jimmy? What do you think's going to happen next?
I mean, it's... Who knows?
What do you think about an article that says that Bellevue is catering to prisoners and homeless people and drug addicts? Do you think that they might use it as a place to, I don't know, I don't want to speculate, but I'm trying to figure out where these tents were that the New York Post was showing. They weren't definitive in their determination that it was in fact a makeshift morgue. They said that they seemed to be setting up a makeshift morgue. I think it's behind this. This is a newer pavilion, and there's an older, like, haunting part of it back over here. Would an umbrella help you? You want an umbrella?
No, but I shouldn't stay out. I still am doing my own healing work.
Sure.
And
well, what else would you like to tell everybody? You told me you're starting a YouTube channel, right? Is there a way that people can stay in touch with you or watch your YouTube?
Well, not yet. I mean, and probably within the next 2 or 3 months. Maybe you could help me with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I basically want to talk about, just wellness and just keeping people's humanity and goodness and just basic values and things that are becoming less important to people as they are trying to just survive. And life isn't just about surviving. There should be inspiration and creativity and beauty and obviously it's becoming more expensive to live here, and the means by which we're able to pay the bills is obviously by the day becoming limited for a lot of people. And but I don't know, it's an interesting time we're in right now. I mean, the issue is partially is our response to all of this.
Yeah.
People should respect potentially what it is and, take precautions but at the same time, don't lose yourself in it. You still have to be yourself, and you can only be good for others if you have your own center intact, So, you're gonna hang here?
Yeah, if you gotta go, I'll grab the microphone from you and I'll carry on. That's okay.
I hope this helped you.
I think it did. It's good to see you as always.
Yes.
And good to chat, and everybody got
Maybe
to know you there.
As controversial as I could have been.
It's all right.
But the reason is because I'm not aware of what they're saying. You know,
It's totally okay.
I don't have, you know, I can't rebut what I don't know.
But you can tell us what you see on the streets, and you can tell us what you feel. I mean, you're in touch with the pulse of New York.
My concern is the dehumanization of our communities by these events. What I see is an extension of alienation from technology, from stress, from the complications of life that have proceeded from the turn of the 21st century to now, to the degrees where we don't have the collisions of beauty and cross-generational interactions that make life rich. Maybe it's just the time we're living in, but I don't want to believe that. So something like this plays into that if we allow it to. For example, I didn't know what it was like in 1930 living here, but I was aware of the fabric of the way life was then, and extensively there was still enough of what the quality was when I was thinking about it, so we could connect into it. So if we disrupt that, we're further away from the things that are important in life. Love, compassion, kindness, having fun. This is all way too serious. This is two-dimensional cardboard. That's what this is turning into. So that's my rebuttal right there. It's really a spiritual issue. As far as the mechanics of this, I mean, I could never depend on any of these people for anything. I wouldn't even bother. I mean, I'll listen to them. I'll respect what the pundits have to say in their own way, and then I'll proceed accordingly based on what works for me within what is, appropriate.
Jimmy, I'll see you, man.
Yeah, pleasure.
Take care of yourself. Be
You too.
careful. I think it's getting dangerous around. Like that guy approaching us, two of us, and he's coming across the street. It's different than it usually is.
Well, they're desperate. In other words, before when there was, tons of people walking the streets and they were panhandling, they might grab 10, 15, 20 bucks in the course of a day. If there's nobody on the street and they have nothing and they're not eating, yeah, they're gonna be a little bit more aggressive.
It's pretty surprising that the city didn't have a plan in place for that. They're spending millions, allegedly, at the Javits Center to build this hospital, but nothing to care for the people who are left on the street. Jimmy.
Well, that's the thing. It's, I mean.
You know firsthand.
Yeah, again, look at the deregulation of all the markets and how it's affected life, the rents, the airspace, everything accounted for. Look at all the empty storefronts.
Right.
Oh,
we didn't even talk about Amazon closing down retail and taking over Whole Foods, and now they can control how many people can get in there, and they decide if you get to buy food or not. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, the thing is that, okay, so they're taking precautions. I'm not going to say anything counter to that. I mean, the issue is that these sorts of events ultimately concentrate the emphasis at the top. In other words, greater emphasis on the mechanics as they work from the top.
The rich people, the rulers, the elites.
Exactly. They're running the whole show. So I mean, legislation in this country, how much of it has been created over the last 20 years that has anything to do with the average person?
Right.
What bones have been thrown us here and there? But, of, for, and by the people. Think about that. Of, for, and by the people. Is that what this is? I leave you with that.
Stay safe, Jimmy. I'll see you around, man.
Peace, brother.
Thanks.
Hang in, safe.
You too. Okay, so now that's interesting. There's another ambulance across the street moving at a snail's pace. I did actually spot the fence that indicates that this is the correct hospital, but I don't see this makeshift morgue. I see a white tent over there that's totally open to the air. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So, I mean, is that what the New York Post is talking about? Can people see that? Doesn't look like much of anything is going on there. So, I mean, I get it that hospitals don't want you filming who's going in there, keep the privacy of the patients. Okay, here's this medical examiner truck that we heard about, but I'm not sure that it's too unusual for a medical examiner's truck to be outside of a hospital, and that looks like a refrigerator truck, which I think the New York Post also mentioned, Thermo King, that thing on the front there. I mean, maybe these units travel like this all the time. This doesn't seem excessive to me. This is the office of the medical examiner right here. So we can see the older portion of the hospital. Do you work for the hospital? And here's the medical examiner. These are all medical examiner vehicles, and it doesn't seem unusual if the medical examiner's office is right there. Isn't it kind of totally normal for all these medical examiner vehicles to be here? I don't know that they told us that the medical examiner's office is right next to the place. There's the hospital. And here's the medical examiner's office. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I'm looking at more ambulances parked down there. So, I mean, you're telling me that people are dying at such an incredible rate that we need to build a makeshift morgue? But yet, we have medical examiner vehicles all parked here. We've got more FDNY ambulances parked back over here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one's driving, but I don't know. Let's see if these EMTs will speak to me. This is OCME, I guess the Office of the County City Medical Examiner, something like that. It's awesome. We got an EMT smoking a cigarette. Hey guys, have you guys been dealing with a lot of coronavirus patients? Have you been dealing with a lot of coronavirus patients?
There's a lot of people with fever and cough, but we can't confirm.
You can't.
We don't do testing.
Have you seen a lot? I mean, you're not wearing a mask. You don't seem worried.
This is my first day back, actually.
What's that?
This is my first day back.
This is your first day back? Why did they wait until now to call you? Hasn't there been a huge pandemic?
There's a lot of other things going on right now. We're just trying to keep up with the
What kind of other things? This is the biggest story in the world. Everybody's apparently, according to the governor, dying from a pandemic. Have you guys witnessed that? You look like you're hanging out texting. Everything okay?
Yeah, we get calls.
Are there hundreds of people in the hospital dying? They said one person dying per hour 4 days ago. So that would be 24 people every day. Plus somebody else said one person is going to infect as many as 59. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ambulances right here. I mean, don't you guys think that there should be a lot of people running around going crazy?
Yeah,
No?
There's a lot of us out
Have
there.
you seen a lot of coronavirus patients?
Sorry?
Have you seen a lot of coronavirus patients?
Probably. Not confirmed.
But you're standing 2 feet away from me. You're not wearing a mask. You guys aren't wearing rubber gloves.
Well, when we get patients, we wear masks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything you guys can tell us? Where is this makeshift morgue that the New York Post said was set up outside of Bellevue?
I'm pretty sure it's probably, if you ask one of the staff members at Bellevue, they could probably point
But
you
have
in
you
that
heard anything about a makeshift morgue? Don't you think EMTs would know about a makeshift morgue right over here?
Me personally, I wouldn't. Like I just told you, it's my first day back. I'm sorry, I couldn't.
No, it's okay. Thanks. Do you guys know anything about a makeshift morgue? The New York Post reports a makeshift morgue is
I
being...
don't. You can tell me about it when you find out.
But you haven't seen it, have you? Don't you think it's something that the EMTs would know about?
Are you being serious?
What?
Are you joking or are you being serious?
I'm being serious. The New York Post had a story this morning that the Army was building a makeshift morgue outside of Bellevue Hospital. You guys work for Bellevue, right?
No, we're the fire department.
Well, you work for the fire, but Bellevue is right over there. You're bringing people to
Right.
Bellevue all the time, right?
There is no morgue over there. Did you see one?
I did not.
Me neither. I hope not.
I mean, wouldn't you know? Like when you come into work, do they have like a briefing in the morning and tell you? No.
Not unless it's fire department related.
And have you seen hundreds of coronavirus patients?
We've seen a lot.
How do you know they have coronavirus?
Well, we don't know for sure, but we bring them in. If they have symptoms, we bring them in.
Does it seem like different symptoms than the flu and more people this year than last year? How long have you been in EMT?
Well, it depends, really. You can't say for sure unless you get tested. You know?
How long have you been in EMT?
3 years.
3 years.
Here with the fire department, 6 years total.
And are there a dramatic increase in calls this year?
Yeah, of course. We just did 6,400 last night.
6,400 what?
6,400 calls.
And how many do you usually do?
Averaged out 4,000 in the 4,000s probably.
So you're 50%
Yeah.
over normal.
Last night.
Is the hospital busting out so
Yeah.
much that they need to build a hospital on the West Side Highway
Is
in
that what's going on?
the Javits Center? I mean, that's what they say. You haven't been following
I
it
don't
too
know.
closely, huh?
When we're not at work, we try to relax. I don't really watch the news that much.
Got it. All right, you got a lot of heavy stuff.
I
Thanks
got
for
that.
talking to me. I
Thanks, man.
appreciate it.
Be safe.
Take care. You too. I don't know what people think about that. I mean, so there we've got an EMT confirming about a 50% increase in calls compared to his rough estimate of what the average would be. I mean, does that sound like a pandemic to people or just a heavy flu season? I would think, 400% more, 1,000% more, 10 times the number of calls. That sounds more in line with like what we're hearing about on the news. So people are saying the mayor is a liar. Let's see what we got in the comments here. It is pretty cold and rainy again today. Oh wow, it looks like the comments are way delayed from where I am. Well, I mean, the New York Post, again, I have to say, is incredibly irresponsible at best. If they're talking about that white tent on the lawn, that could just be like an Army office. If FEMA is setting up, I don't know how they, so wait a second, along 30th Street and FDR Drive Parkway. Okay, so let's go up there and see. Right now I'm on about 27th Street, not wearing a mask and gloves. Yes, I know I'm not wearing a mask and gloves. When they make an order mandating that anybody outside needs to wear a mask and gloves, I'll do it. I see medical professionals walking around not wearing. They'll just walk away. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so if that guy is giving us an approximate that there's a 50% increase in calls, what does that tell us? I mean, if you spent 3 weeks blasting the news, telling people that there's a crazy virus around, don't you think it would increase people's likelihood to call an ambulance if they were, coughing or had a sore throat, whereas normally you would probably not do that? No, don't make a right while I'm crossing the street. Left, whatever that is. Nothing jives here, folks. So 30th Street. I think this is 27th, 26th. So what was that address? 30th Street and FDR Drive. I better be careful looking around here. I felt a little better. 30th Street and FDR Drive Parkway. I felt a little better when Jim Vinyl was with me. People can go back and check out some of the episodes he and I did on the record. He has a little stand. He sells records outside of Whole Foods. Used to be outside Radio Shack, but of course Radio Shack closed. I guess largely due to people buying stuff like that from Amazon.com. So it's getting pretty rainy. I'm gonna have to go back soon, but now that we've found out that it's supposedly on 30th Street, I gotta go there. So this is 28th Street. See now, but why would they say Bellevue? 30th Street, we're getting up to NYU Langone, where I was yesterday. So what is going on with the New York Post? I'd like people to remember that the New York Post and Larry Salona, the guy who's one of 3 authors on that article, why do we need 3? You know, maybe Mike Moore or some other journalists can tell me, why the hell do we need 3 journalists to write a couple of paragraphs about an alleged emergency morgue? It seems like something one person could do, and if you've got 3 people doing it and they can't get it straight. So, I mean, 30th Street, why are they saying that the morgue is outside of Bellevue? 30th Street would be outside NYU Langone. So here's 29th. People who are going to be wanting to watch Charles Ortella's closing in today might be disappointed that the show's going to be just postponed. We're not going to do it today, maybe next week, but Charles will definitely be back on Sunday for another Sunday with Charles. Hopefully that will not involve another battle royal. I hope people have been watching all these videos. Man, so that guy in the truck, the light's in my favor and he's still... Perhaps that's a sign that things are returning to normal. All right, this is 30th Street, and people can see how much closer this is to NYU Langone than it is to Bellevue. So I wonder why NYU wasn't mentioned in that article. The New York Post ran a series of stories about Jeffrey Epstein that also made no sense. We did a lot of reporting on the photographs of Ghislaine Maxwell outside the In-N-Out Burger restaurant. Now here's a police line that they don't want you to cross on 30th Street, so that's pretty interesting. I guess I could take the sidewalk down there perhaps. So there's more traffic today, which is encouraging, I guess. Let's see what we can see here. Now here's a white refrigerator truck, but I don't know that we could jump to any conclusions about what that might contain. Here's a medical examiner truck, but again, I mean, is that a strange thing to have outside of a hospital, even if, you know, not a huge number of people are dying? Yeah, I mean, a bunch of like unknown vans here. Here's the VA hospital, has got a vehicle here. Have you guys seen a makeshift morgue around here? Sounds like a no. That looks like some kind of facility for, I don't know. What do we got over here? Here's the army dudes. I do see army dudes. So they're doing something, but this is nowhere near Bellevue. This is NYU Langone. I mean, is it a morgue? It doesn't necessarily look like a morgue to me. It looks like maybe offices being built. Let's see. How's it going? So there's something happening here, but I can't say that it's a morgue necessarily. Let's see if they'll talk to me. Is the army more likely to beat me up than the cops? Excuse me, can you guys confirm that you're building a morgue here? Huh? Talk to him? Can you confirm that you're building a morgue here? On the sidewalk. Okay.
Go this way.
All right, going to the sidewalk. U.S. government official. So what are they doing? Special operations. Excuse me, can you guys confirm that you're building a morgue here? Can anybody confirm if this is a morgue being built? Sorry. Can you confirm that you guys are building a morgue here? Can you confirm or deny that? Is there anybody here who can answer my questions? Guys?
Hey guys.
Can you answer any questions or direct me to someone who can answer any questions? Are you guys building a morgue here? Is this a makeshift morgue? Guys, is there somebody in charge who can answer my questions? Guys, hey, is there somebody that can answer any questions?
No, not at this point.
Are you guys building a morgue here? The New York Post says you're building a morgue. If you're not, it would be helpful to tell people that. Cheetos are needed for the morgue. There's nobody here who can answer any questions. We just want to leave the public thinking that the morgue is being built, whether it is or isn't. Okay, so there we see the white tents. How do we know that's a morgue? Can you guys confirm or deny this New York Post story that this is a morgue that's being built?
Huh?
Can you
So I
confirm?
will have to direct you to my commanding officer. He can-
Where is that person?
Okay. Sergeant P! Where's LT?
I'll wait right here.
LT!
Sorry? No, I'll wait right here, thanks.
LT!
Can you confirm or deny that this is a morgue being built right here?
I can't confirm or deny anything.
The New York Post has published that. If it's not a morgue, we should tell people because it's getting people very
I
upset.
have no comment at this time. If you want to talk to our public affairs for the Air National Guard, I'd suggest that.
So this is the Air National Guard building a series of white tents here that you will not confirm or deny is a morgue.
I'm not at liberty to comment right now.
Not able to comment. And is there anyone, how do I contact this public affairs
So I'll give you
department?
a Colonel Goldenberg is the phone number you want to reach out to.
Yeah,
He's our
let's
public affairs
have it.
officer, and I can give that to you, all right?
Sure. Have there been hundreds of dead people coming out of the hospital today?
Again, that's not something I'm going to comment on. Stand by for 1 second here.
Sure. Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. So call Colonel Goldenberg. His number is 518-429-5186.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Have a nice day. Be safe. So there we go. I don't know. Is the New York Post in its entirety so useless that they can't even do that? I don't know what that is. How do we know if it's a morgue? It's pretty cold and rainy. But I would say that this is another day out where we've seen a lot of ambulances sitting around. The front entrance to another one of New York City's major hospitals, kind of doing nothing. I don't know, maybe this is the back of Bellevue right here, so maybe it is connected to Bellevue somehow, but I don't know why they wouldn't mention NYU Langone. People who know more about this area and this building than me will know what this is. Maybe it's part of Bellevue. It was interesting, that article talking about Bellevue being New York's best public hospital or something about it, and how it was catering to drug addicts and criminals, and that you might get spit on. Seems like a strange collection. I'm really disappointed in the New York Post. Did I mistakenly call it the New York Times while I was talking to those guys? I'm disappointed in the New York Post because to publish that they're putting a morgue over here, there's no evidence that they're doing that. That could be anything. How do we know that's not a FEMA vaccine testing? Who the hell knows what that is? Could be anything. but they will not confirm or deny if it's a morgue.
Hey, Stunner.
It's not pointing at you. There we go. I think that might be the end of the video. Let's see how we're doing with comments here. It's super cold. Google Maps says men's shelter. Right, there we go. So that's a men's shelter. Yeah, I believe that. There were guys outside smoking cigarettes, guys walking in and out. It looked like a facility for the homeless. So why do they say that the morgue is outside of Bellevue? It's not. I mean, technically, anything not in that building on 27th Street is outside of Bellevue, but that is shoddy reporting. Larry Salona. People should look up the video that I did. I called Larry Salona and asked him what the hell he was talking about with his Jeffrey Epstein reporting, with this Ghislaine Maxwell eating a hamburger deal. They're terrible. But I think I got to get in a cab and out of the cold here. What is everybody saying? Finding truth, yes. Is it okay to mirror this? Yes. Mirror it, send it around. The best thing for people to do is become sponsors of Crowdsource the Truth. If you go to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, you're helping me show you all these ambulances driving around without the lights on, without anybody in them, occupied and operated by EMTs who don't know if they've had any coronavirus patients or not, and seem to feel that there's only about a 50% uptick, which I wonder to what extent that's caused by the intense paranoia that's being driven by all the news here. So, oh, did people notice yesterday in my encounter with the NYPD, what was it, Strategic Response Group, Sergeant Manley? His badge number was 4336. 33? Is that a message to someone? He wouldn't tell me what they were doing over there either. Why is the Army doing all this secret stuff? This is supposed to be a government by the people, for the people, and of the people, like Jimmy was telling us. But they don't want us to know what's happening. And all the money, it seems to be going to the Javits Center and other things. Oh, yeah, I was looking at that event 201 and some of the participants. One of the main participants, I don't have the name in front of me. Well, maybe I'll prepare another story. That would be good to do with David Hawkins. Yeah, people should get onto Patreon and Subscribestar because you're going to get access to a huge and growing library of sponsor-exclusive content that goes even deeper on all of these stories than I'm able to do on these walks or on YouTube. I know a lot of people want it to be free and available on YouTube, but the problem is it's not free when it's on YouTube. YouTube controls YouTube, and they like to shut down a lot of videos about a lot of the things that I talk about. So, not to mention, I would have stopped doing this years ago if it wasn't for the sponsors on Subscribestar and Patreon, because I need to get food too. So I definitely don't want anybody to be financially put out, particularly not during this challenging time. But if people are feeling secure and if they want this channel to keep going, please do become sponsors. And let's just see if there's, we'll find out soon. Yeah, all right. Well, I don't know. We definitely need to find out. I was trying to figure out who owns the Jacob Javits Center. Jacob Javits, we've learned since yesterday, was a senator. I thought he was a mayor. He was a senator. What I'm going to do, though, is I need to, whoa, what's this? Be prepared to stop. Somebody sent me an email that their friend was going from like New Jersey into their office in the city to get some stuff. And when they left, the police stopped her and questioned her and said she had to go self-quarantine for 14 days. So just being in New York City, you're under quarantine. All right, I gotta put up an umbrella here because it's raining. I gotta free up some hands. Thanks for watching, everybody. See everyone later.